Hi everyone, welcome to Daisy UI Crash Course. Daisy UI is a UI library for Tailwind CSS. It gives you reusable utility classes to design your components. So instead of writing 100 class names, you use a single or one or two class name to design your elements. So let me give you an example. If you go to the documentation and then you go to components, let's go to button. If I scroll down, here we have a nice looking button. And if I show you the code, you see we are not having any button component like a React component, Angular component, or a Vue component. We are using the simple button tag. And then we have added the class name btn, which has added all this beautiful design for the button. So you don't have to use hundreds of Tailwind class names to design an element with a decent design. You also have customization options using just the class names. Like you can see here, you can create a primary button with btn primary class or ghost button with btn ghost class. You are also able to write normal Tailwind classes to customize your components. It has a lot of component design and very well documented. I really like their design and it is very fast. Some key features of Daisy UI is the design. I really like the design. Plus, you don't have to write hundreds of class names. You can use semantic class names. Like you can see btn, then btn primary or btn ghost. It is descriptive, faster, cleaner. It has class names for common UI components like button, card, toggle, etc. It makes your HTML much more cleaner, even if you are using a JavaScript framework. So this is the Tailwind code, and this is Tailwind with Daisy UI. You see, it's much more simpler than it makes the development faster because you don't have to write hundreds of class names. It is customizable. It works with all JavaScript frameworks, even with vanilla HTML. You can even use it with Laravel. And one thing I forgot to mention is that if you really want to have components instead of just having class names, like a button component, card component, there are packages for them as well. For example, there is a package called React Daisy UI. So this has React components that has already Daisy UI classes pre-applied, and you'll be able to change the design using props. Also, the class names are available. They also have the installation instruction. There's no separate documentation, but they have the storybook available for you. This is kind of like an API reference. You see all the components that is available. Let's go to the button, let's say. So here you have a preview and the HTML code for it. You'll be able to change the preview using these props. If you don't see this panel, I guess you have to click on this show add-ons icon, and then you'll see this panel. But I'm not going to use this package. I'm just going to stick to the class names. And another thing that I like about Daisy UI is the themes. They have a lot of themes with great designs. So if you open up this theme dropdown, here you'll see a bunch of themes. They actually have 32 themes available for you to use, and you can even create your own theme. So I really like this UI library for Tailwind. Let's learn how we can really use it. Okay, so I have a basic NextJS setup with Tailwind. And then I have installed a package called Daisy UI as a dev dependency. I've also installed a package called Next Themes. It is not required, but I'm going to use it later in this video. So once you have installed this package, you need to go to the Tailwind config. And here you need to add a plugin. So require Daisy UI. And you see we have a dark theme applied. Actually, it is using the system colors that I'm using for the browser. If I go to the settings and go to appearance, and the colors is same as Lex. If I choose light, and the UI is now light, but I'm gonna change it back to same as Linux. I like dark themes. Okay, so our Daisy UI setup is working. Let's see how we can use Daisy UI. Let's use the button first. So to use a component, the same button component, you just need to add the button tag with a class name. So I'm going to copy this. And now we have a designed button. You also have brand colors, primary, secondary, accent. You can change them using the class name. So PTN, then primary, or PTN secondary. Then you have ghost. You can also make a link. And by the way, make sure you have the Tailwind plugin installed on the VS Code, or if you're using NeoVim, then make sure you have installed the Tailwind language server, this one. Otherwise, you won't get auto completion. Then you can make a button active. So let me just change it to primary. So PTN-active. And now we have a little bit darker version of the color. You have different button state. You can add a success button, warning button. Let's say PTN warning. Then you have error. If you want to have some outline buttons like this, you can use the button outline tag. Class name. BTN outline. Now we have an outline button with the button error state. You can also change the button size. You have BTN LG for button large. Then you have BTN SM. And there's a tiny version of it, XS, BTN XS. You can also make a wide button. If you want your button to take 100% width of the container, then you can create a block button using the button block class. Then you can also have responsive buttons. You can just simply use this Tailwind syntax and then just add the button size class. So I'm just going to copy this. And I'll comment this out. And see the button size as I will change the window size. You see the button size is also changing. Then you can also create a class button like this. You can also use button styles using a different tag. In the code, you can see that we have different tags, but we still have the same button design. It is really useful. A good example would be links. Sometimes we want to have links to other pages, but we want to look them as a button. This is really useful. So let's use it with a NextJS link component. I'm going to comment this out. And let's add a link. I'll go to about page. So this is the basic link. 4 because the about page doesn't exist. Now let's add the button class name. And now we have a button, but it is actually the link tag from NextJS. You can see it is actually an anchor tag. Then you also have button icon buttons. You have square button, circle button. Then you can have icon at the start, icon at the end. So let's use one of them. So we're using a square button. So just use the button tag with the button class name and then add your icon. So I have added an SVG. If you want to add some text, you can add them. For example, close page. Actually, you need to remove the square class name because the text won't fit there. And now you have a button text with icon. You can also change the text position. Now the text is at the end. You can also have a spinner. Just add a span tag and use the class name loading and loading spinner. For loading, you have other options. You have loading dots, loading ring, loading ball, loading bars. So this is the loading bars. You have dots. You can also disable animation, no animation class. And now clicking on this button doesn't do any animation. You also have the Tailwind class names available to use. Let's add margin to the right. And now we have a little bit of margin. So that's pretty much about the button component. There are a lot of components. I can't go over every single one. I'm going to show you a few of them. Then there is a modal component. The modal component is used to show a dialog or a box when you click on a button. So there are 3 ways you can implement a modal, but the recommended way of doing it is using the dialog tag. I have a separate video on the dialog tag. You can check that out later. So there are mainly 2 class names that you need to use. First is the modal box. It will be used for the actual content, and then modal action for the button. Then you also have a class name for modal backdrop. So this is a normal modal. First you have a button, then you have a dialog tag. When you click on a button, you select the dialog tag, and it has a show modal method. You need to call that function. It will open up the modal. If you want to close the modal, you can use the form tag or use the close method from the dialog tag. So let's use them. I'm gonna clear everything out. Let's create a button. And not a button component, a button tag. And let's add a dialog. Let's set a class name, btn, and let's create a ref. But make sure you have made the component a client component. And now attach the ref to the dialog tag. We need to add a modal box. Also, we need to add the modal class name. Let's add a heading. And for the button, let's add a modal action. Let's add a button. And let's add an all-click handler. So ref.current.show modal. Oh, sorry, the prop name. It should be camel case. And also I have noticed another mistake. The modal action should be inside the modal box, not outside modal box. Nice. So let's click on the button. And the modal is now open, but clicking on close button doesn't do anything. So I can add an event listener to the button. So ref.current.close. And now if I click on the close button, it closes the modal. If I hit escape, then it also closes the modal. But if I click outside, it doesn't close the modal. For that, you need to use a form tag with a modal backdrop class. So I will paste the code. Let's put that outside of the modal box. And make sure the form tag has the method dialog in it. So let's see if that works. Now if I click outside, it actually closes the modal. You actually don't see this button. So let me just change it. Close my modal. Now you don't see the text. The text is hidden. If I click outside, it closes the modal. So that's how you can actually close our modal. Now, if you want to have modal at the top, like a notification, then you can use prop called modal top or modal bottom. By default, it will show you the modal at the middle. So let's attach the class name, modal top. And now the modal is top. Let's change it to bottom. Now the modal appears at the bottom. So this is how you can actually use Daisy UI components. Now let's talk about the layout and typography. If you have used other frameworks, there are some layout components like for Flexbox, for Grid, for Stack. This library doesn't have those components. You have to use the basic Tailwind classes for Flexbox, Grid, or containers. For typography, you need to use a plugin called Tailwind CSS Typography. It's an official plugin. It's needed because when you use Tailwind, it removes all the default styles. So now if I add a H1, this is H1 text. You see, this doesn't look like H1. Tailwind CSS removes all the default styles, including the typography styles. To get the typography styles, you need to use that plugin, and it is really easy to use and very customizable as well. You just need to install this plugin, then add the plugin on the Tailwind config. So let's install that. Now let's go to Tailwind config. And let's add another plugin. Now just go to the container and add a class name called pros. And that should add all the styles for your typography. As simple as that. And as you can see, you have your typography styles. There can be a totally separate video on this plugin, Tailwind CSS Typography. If you want me to create a video about that, let me know in the comment section. I will try to make one. So that's pretty much about this layout and typography. Now let's talk about themes. Theming in Daisy UI is really easy. A theme is basically a set of style rules like the colors, fonts, and so on. For example, when I created a button, I didn't specify any color, any background color, or a font. The theme has all the styles in it. You can have multiple themes, as many themes as you want. Daisy UI comes with a lot of themes. There are 32 themes available for you to use, and you can check them right in the documentation. For example, you can use the forest, aqua, luxury, night. Then you have cyberpunk, retro, Halloween, and so on. To configure a theme, you need to use the Tailwind plugin. By default, Tailwind will only give you 2 themes, one for the light theme and one for a dark theme. But you can also pass true or false. But you can specify the theme that you only want. All the other themes then will be ignored, and it will also reduce the CSS file size. So let's see how we can use it. Let's go to the Tailwind config and add a key called Daisy UI. Add a themes key. The default value is false. And that's why you have only 2 themes. But if you pass true, then you have all the themes available, all the 32 themes available. Changing a theme is really easy. To change a theme, you just need to use a data attribute called data theme on a container. It can be any container. It can be HTML. It can be the body tag. It can be a normal div. You can even use it on a component like a normal button tag or an arrow tag. So let's add a data theme attribute. And let's use cupcake. And now we have a cupcake theme. Let's add cyberpunk. Now we have a cyberpunk theme. You can also change the individual component theme. So let's add a data theme. And let's use node. And now you have a node theme for the button, only for the button. Rest of the components are going to have the cyberpunk theme. All the theme names should be available on the documentation. Here are all the themes that are available. But if you want all the theme as a list in your code, then you can also do that. I didn't see that on the documentation. So let's create a file, default themes .jsx, sorry, just JS. And let's just import themes from daisy UI /source/themes. And let's create a variable default themes. And the themes is going to be an object, and you need the keys as an array. So object.keys, and just pass themes. And let's export that. And let's use them in our page. So console log default themes. And if you open up the console, here you have an array of 32 items. Here is all the themes that is available. Let's also export the themes. Now, if you want to have some specific themes, which you should do, then you can just pass an array to the themes property. Now, the first item of this array is going to be a theme for the light mode, and the second one will be for the dark mode. So by default, it is light and dark. But let's use some different themes. Let's use the cupcake theme, and then the forest theme. And another theme will be coffee. And if I save this, you will see a problem. It is now using the cupcake theme. It is ignoring the cyberpunk and node theme because I have removed those themes from the Tailwind config. The problem is that if I change the color scheme, then the theme will not change. So if I change the Brave colors from same as Linux to light theme, it is using still the cupcake theme. But if I choose it to dark, it is not using the forest theme. In the documentation, they said in this example, we have cupcake, dark, and CMYK. The cupcake will be the default theme for the light mode, which is the first one, and dark will be default theme for the dark mode, which is the second item in the array. But for some reason, it doesn't matter what color scheme I set on my browser, it only uses the first theme. This is probably a bug, but I found a way to fix this. You can go to the config section, and here you have a property called dark theme name that you want to use for dark mode. So I can add that. So dark theme. And now if I just put forest, now it should work. And now we have the forest theme instead of the cupcake theme. And if I change the colors to light, and now it is using the cupcake theme. And if I choose save as Linux, which should be dark, and now we have the dark theme. And again, you can still add a theme for a specific element. Let's use the coffee theme for the button. And now we have a coffee theme for the button. So this is how you can actually change a theme of element But how do you really change the theme for the entire website? You just need to make sure the container has the data theme. There's an easy way to do this. There is a class name called theme controller. If you go to the bottom, sorry, not at the bottom, let's search for theme controller. So here it is. So if a checkbox input or a checked radio input with theme controller class exists in the page will have the same theme as the inputs value. So if I show you one of the examples, here we have the radio buttons, and in the JSX you have this this theme controller class name. If I choose a different theme, the entire page theme gets changed, but if I refresh, the website doesn't remember what you had selected before. It falls back to the default theme. So what you should be doing is that you add a on-click event listener, and then you select the container, and then add a data theme attribute and set the desired theme value. But it will still have a problem. It will not remember the theme you have chosen before. For that, you need to store the chosen theme value in the local storage, and then you will update that when the user visit the website again. The documentation recommends a library. Where is that? Let's go to themes. So they recommend this library, theme change. It is also from the Daisy UI author. You can use this, but if you're using NextJS and you want to have a theme state like a React context, then you might want to use this package called Next Themes. It is really easy to use. You just need to wrap the entire app using this theme provider component, and then you will be able to use this use theme hook to change the theme and use the theme state. I have already installed the Next Themes library, and now I need to go to the layout.js file and wrap the children by the theme provider. And there you need to specify a prop called themes, which is going to be the list of theme names. So I've specified cupcake, forest, and coffee. So let's just use them. And you will also need to add another prop to the HTML, which is this one, suppress hydration warning. And now let's go to the page.js file. And let's just remove this data theme prop. Let's use the use theme hook. The use theme hook returns you the theme state and a function called setTheme, which is going to be the theme name that you want to use. Actually, let's just remove the console log and add the theme name to the h1, current theme. And now you see the current theme is system, but we also have an error that said hydration failed because the initial UI does not match what was rendered on the server, because when the component was rendered on server, the theme variable was undefined, and on the client, the theme was system. So that was causing the mismatch between the two DOM, the server rendered DOM and the client rendered DOM, which is stopping the hydration process. To fix this, you need to go to the documentation, avoid hydration mismatch section. And to fix this, you just need to create a new state to check if the component is already mounted or not. If the component is mounted, then you can safely render what the theme is on the UI. So I can just copy this and add that here. And let's add the use effect plus the condition. Now we don't have any error. You see this warning, it is because extension that I'm using. Now we can create a few buttons to change the themes. So I will paste the code. So basically we are looping over this 3 string, the theme names, and then we have rendered 3 buttons with the button class name. If the current theme name equals to the item, the current item, then it will add a border red of 500. And then we have just displayed the current item and the current item as data theme. And now we need to add a on-click event listener. We should call the setTheme function and pass the item. Now if I click on Cupcake, it should change the theme to Cupcake. And now we are using the Cupcake theme. If I click on Coffee, now we have the coffee theme. Forest, now we have the forest theme. So our themes are changing. So it was really easy to do. So this is how you can use the NextJS library to change the theme with Daisy UI. You can also create your own custom theme, which is really easy to do. Just add a new object to the themes array and then pass the color names or the CSS variables. So let's just copy this object. And let's go to Tailwind config. And let's add that over here. The key name of the object has to be the theme name. So my theme is completely fine. So let's change the Open Modal button theme with our new theme. So let's add the data theme and use my theme and add the button primary class. And now we have a different primary color. If I go to the Tailwind config, you see the primary colors are the same. Let's change it to secondary. And now it is using the yellow color that we have specified. You can also pass CSS variables if you want. You can also customize an existing theme or create a new theme from an existing theme. So let's say that I want to extend the node theme. So I just need to spread the node theme object from the themes object. So let's import the themes. Import themes from source/default themes, and then we need to spread out the node object themes dot node. Let's comment the primary color. Let's duplicate this button. And let's add primary class to the first button. And now we have two buttons. First button's color is actually coming from the node theme, which is an existing one. And second one is coming from the color that we have specified over here. And if you want to just override the existing theme instead of extending that theme, instead of creating a new theme from an existing theme, you can just change the theme name, just put node here, and that should work fine. The colors of the buttons are changed because I didn't specify node over here, so let's change it to node. And now we have the previous colors. So this is how you can customize the themes. So that's pretty much about Daisy UI. I didn't build any solid web page, but I tried to teach you how to use this library. If you have learned something new from this, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.